Many of us live trapped in a game we never asked to play. We compare ourselves to others, turning their thoughts into a matter of life and death. As if our own worth depended on external approval, we constantly seek to be accepted. And yes, this might seem completely normal to you, because from childhood, we've been taught to look outward to understand who we are. But let me share a secret with you. This is one of the most destructive traps of our time. True freedom, true success, doesn't begin when you manage to please the world. The real ascent starts the moment you stop looking around and focus your attention solely on yourself, on what you build, on what you choose, and on the discipline you repeat every day like an act of devotion. Because as long as you spend your energy observing other people's lives, you'll never find the strength to build your own. I know it's hard to set aside that need for approval, to stop caring about what others say. But when you achieve it, the reward you receive is priceless: clarity, authenticity, and an inner strength that no one can take away from you. That is the path to your own destiny. The first major step to focusing on yourself is to understand a truth that seems obvious, but that almost no one applies. Comparison is a poison that kills the soul. Yes, I'm saying it kills, because it kills your inner peace, your clarity, and above all, your potential. Since childhood, we've been conditioned to look to the side. What has the neighbor's son accomplished? What grades did your friend get? What promotion did your colleague secure? Over time, this mechanism becomes an addiction. Years pass, and we continue to measure our worth with someone else's yardstick. The problem is that this race never ends. There will always be someone richer, more talented, younger, or stronger than you. If you base your life on this game, you will always be the loser. When you decide to turn your attention inward, you break this invisible chain and turn the steering wheel of your life 180 degrees. You stop looking outward and start turning inward. You ask yourself these questions. What can I do better today than yesterday? What discipline am I lacking? What habit is slowing me down? This is the most important point, because the only true competition in life is the one you wage against yourself. If today you're one step further than yesterday, if this year you're more disciplined than last year, then you're winning. Not against the world, but against your own inertia. And here's a disturbing truth. Most people aren't as preoccupied with you as you think. They're drowning in their own fears, their own debts, their own internal battles. Yet, thousands of people waste years trying to please a crowd of spectators who, in reality, aren't even watching them. This is the most modern form of slavery. Focusing on yourself is not selfishness. It's a responsibility, because no one will live your life for you. No one will bear the burden of your failures or your unfinished business. No one will build your dreams for you. That burden is entirely yours. But so is the honor of achieving those dreams. Every minute you spend criticizing, envying, or simply observing is a minute stolen from your own growth. The disciplined individual understands this. They divert their gaze from these pointless comparisons and channel all their energy into the only thing they can control: their habits, their decisions, and their character. This investment grows exponentially. Because while the average person consumes themselves watching what others do, the disciplined person moves forward, step by step, steadily, without getting distracted. Don't forget this. The one who compares themselves always loses, because they measure their life with rules that aren't their own. The one who focuses solely on themselves always wins, because their goal isn't to surpass their neighbor, but to surpass who they were yesterday. And that's where true power begins. The second step to focusing on yourself is to free yourself from the greatest prison, the fear of what others think. This fear has 1,000 faces. What will they say if I fail? What will they think if I take this risk? How will they judge me if I make a mistake? The voice repeating these questions in your mind paralyzes millions of people, locking them in an invisible cell. The irony, Do you know what it is? All those voices you fear are fleeting. Those who criticize you today will forget you tomorrow, and the day after they'll be busy pointing fingers at someone else. The real problem is that many people mortgage their dreams, their energy, and even their identity because of criticisms that, in the end, carry no real weight. Focusing on yourself is learning to hear those voices but not obey them, not because they disappear, but because they no longer control your path. Every time you face an important decision, ask yourself this question: am I doing this because it brings me closer to my goal or just to please someone else? If the answer is the latter, you're betraying yourself. Yes, the cost is heavy, because focusing on yourself means disappointing some people, distancing yourself from others, enduring disdainful looks and whispers. But every time you choose to stay true to your vision, instead of yielding to others' judgments, you become freer and stronger. We live in an era where our worth is measured by likes, followers, and fleeting approvals that vanish in seconds. But none of that guarantees true success. That external approval is so fragile it shatters like glass. Those who applaud you today will forget your name tomorrow. The person who focuses on themselves learns to let go of this dependency. They replace superficial applause with the deep satisfaction of moving forward each day, silently, toward their goal. I know it's hard, because we all want to be accepted, but this letting go is the only way to build an inner fortress that depends on no one. You also need to understand this. Most of your decisions won't be understood. If you choose to work while others rest, to save while others spend, to invest while others only think about having fun, you'll get strange looks, even mockery. The majority will never understand what it means to live for a purpose, because they've never dared to try. And the key word here is this: you don't need to be understood, you need to be respected. And respect always comes after results. First, they'll laugh, then they'll ask how you did it. That's the price every disciplined person must be ready to pay. Don't forget, your life doesn't belong to the opinions of others, it belongs to you. The day you realize that no one will carry the weight of your failures or celebrate your victories with the same intensity as you, you'll feel an immense freedom. Focusing on yourself is giving more power to your inner voice than to all the external noise. And when you achieve that, even surrounded by criticism, you'll walk with unshakable faith, becoming a force impossible to stop. The third step to focusing on yourself is to understand something almost no one realizes the true value of. Time is your most precious treasure, and it's also the easiest thing to lose. The average person wastes their hours, days, even years on things that don't bring them even an inch closer to their goals. They say yes to words they don't want to hear. They accept invitations that add nothing to their lives. They get lost in discussions that won't change their lives. In the end, their schedule is full, but their heart is empty of purpose. Lots of activity, but no direction. Success never comes to those who scatter their time trying to please everyone. Success comes to the one who has the courage to focus on the essential, who treats every minute like pure gold. And that requires something that bothers many people: learning to say no, saying it with determination, without guilt. Because every time you say yes to something insignificant, you're saying no to your own future. This is crucial. I know it seems difficult at first, because you're afraid of being called selfish, cold, or distant. But listen closely. Focusing on yourself isn't selfishness. It's respecting your goal. If your purpose is big, you don't have the luxury of diluting your time with insignificant things. It will be hard at first, yes, because some won't understand. But there will come a moment when everything becomes clear. Every no you say to something unnecessary is, in reality, a big yes to what truly matters. Another key principle is to organize your life around your true priorities. The average person confuses activity with productivity. They rush from one place to another, work hard, get tired, but don't progress. The focused person, on the other hand, pays the price of planning, organizing their days, and building routines that bring them closer to their goal. This discipline may not seem attractive at first glance, but it's the difference between wasting years and turning them into invaluable results. And of course, there's another price to pay: giving up constant distractions. News, social media, empty conversations, superficial entertainment, all these things drain your energy like an invisible hole. Focusing on yourself is closing the door to what scatters you, directing your mind toward what truly builds you. It's not comfortable, because it requires self-discipline. But it's the filter that separates those who progress from those who remain stuck in mediocrity. Finally, understand that your energy is as valuable as your money. You can't distribute it to everyone. You can't waste it in toxic environments or with people who only want to drain you. Yes, this means losing some friendships, distancing yourself from environments where you don't grow. But what you gain is focus, clarity, and strength. Remember this: your time and energy are the currency with which you buy your future. If you spend them to please others, you'll end up empty-handed. If you invest them in your purpose, you'll achieve a life the majority will never know. Focusing on yourself isn't locking yourself in a bubble. It's building a solid foundation to conquer the world. The fourth step to focusing on yourself is to accept a truth that bothers many people. Personal growth is a daily investment that no one, absolutely no one, can make for you. Many spend their lives waiting for luck to turn, for a miraculous opportunity to appear, or for someone to open the right door for them. But the truth is crystal clear. Your future depends on what you build today with discipline. And yes, this comes at a cost. The person focused on themselves chooses to study while others get lost in distractions. They choose to work on their body while others give in to laziness, to nourish their mind instead of filling it with noise. Every hour you invest in yourself, even if no one sees it, is an invisible brick in the architecture of an extraordinary life. And this is important, because what seems silent today will become a foundation impossible to ignore tomorrow. The problem is that the average person thinks learning stops when school ends. They believe they know enough, that they don't need to learn more. The focused person, however, understands that there's always something to improve, a skill to polish, an idea to discover. That's why they read, listen, observe, seek mentors. They learn from those who've already walked the path. They absorb lessons, no matter the source. This attitude, though humble in appearance, is what sets them apart from the crowd, because while others stagnate, they keep evolving. And of course, you must also give up the need for immediate recognition, because true growth isn't spectacular or instantaneous. Sometimes it's boring, almost always it's silent, and often it's solitary. Getting up early, organizing your days, training even when you don't feel like it, choosing what's difficult when the easy option is within reach. No one will applaud you for that. No one will congratulate you for reading a book at midnight or for saying no to an outing to work on your project. But those moments, invisible to others' eyes, are the ones that transform you the most. What feels routine today will, over time, become the difference between mediocrity and greatness. Yes, it can hurt, exhaust, or feel unfair, but every disciplined habit is a silent declaration of respect for yourself. Every tough choice is proof that you're building the life you want, not a life handed to you by chance. So, I tell you, focus on your growth every day, even if no one notices, even if there are no applause or medals. Because what you build in the shadows will one day shine brightly in the light. And when that happens, when your discipline speaks for you, you won't need explanations or excuses. Your results will be the irrefutable proof that focusing on yourself is always the best decision. The fifth step to focusing on yourself is to understand that your true worth lies not in what you accumulate on the outside, but in what you build on the inside. Many think that focusing on themselves means chasing money, status, titles, or recognition. But this is a mistake repeated from generation to generation. True focus isn't measured by luxury or applause. It's measured by character. Because if you don't respect yourself, if you don't keep your word, if you lack the strength to do what's right, even when no one's watching, everything you build on the outside will eventually collapse like a sandcastle. And this is crucial. What's inside sustains what's outside. When you develop discipline, integrity, and inner strength, visible results become the natural consequence of the person you've become. One of the costs of focusing on yourself is giving up emotional dependency. The majority live chained to the need to be approved, loved, accepted. Their mood fluctuates based on what others say or do. This turns them into emotional slaves. The focused person pays the price of independence. They learn to appreciate themselves without needing applause. They learn to celebrate their victories, even if no one sees them. They learn to respect themselves, even in silence. This emotional independence not only makes them stronger, but also more attractive and reliable, because it shows they don't need anyone's support to stand tall. Another inevitable cost is giving up comparisons. There will always be someone with more money, more luxury, more fame. If you measure your life by these standards, you'll never win. The focused person understands that true wealth is built with purpose, discipline, and authenticity. Yes, money is important, of course it is, but as a tool, not as a measure of your worth. True success has nothing to do with what's in your wallet, but with how much you've grown compared to who you were yesterday. And here's another critical point: setting boundaries. People will always test how far they can go with you. Some will want to take advantage of your time, others your energy, others your money. The person who doesn't focus on themselves says yes to everything and ends up carrying burdens that don't belong to them. The person who respects themselves learns to say no. They learn to walk away from what drains them. Even if it means losing some people, they learn to protect themselves. Because those boundaries, though painful at first, bring you closer to people who value you for who you are, not for what they can take from you. Finally, focusing on yourself requires building a vision so clear it becomes your compass. When you have that vision, criticisms lose their power, comparisons lose their importance, and external approval becomes mere background noise. This clarity sustains you on tough days, reminds you where you're going, and shows you that every sacrifice was worth it. Don't forget, focusing on yourself isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. Because when you strengthen yourself, discipline yourself, and respect yourself, everything you do becomes solid, authentic, and lasting. While others remain trapped in external gazes, you walk toward a life guided by your faith. And that's where true power lies. The sixth step to focusing on yourself is to understand that you can't offer anything valuable to the world if you haven't first built it within yourself. Many believe their worth lies in their ability to please others, to always be available, to solve everyone's responsibilities except their own. They live exhausted, drained, with the feeling of carrying backpacks that don't belong to them. In their effort to support others, they forget themselves, their discipline, their future. Focusing on yourself is paying the price of prioritizing yourself before giving, because no one can nourish others from a void. You must first fill your life with strength, clarity, and purpose. Only then will what you give carry real weight. This focus also requires protecting your energy like gold. The average person surrounds themselves with empty conversations, toxic environments, people who only know how to take without ever giving. They feel guilty if they walk away, afraid of being seen as a bad person if they say no. The person who respects themselves pays the price of letting go of what drains them, even if it's painful. They learn to distinguish those who steal their strength from those who give it. They choose small but solid circles over hollow crowds. And yes, this discipline is uncomfortable, but it's also what saves them from living constantly on the edge of exhaustion. Another inevitable cost is learning to be alone. Yes, it's scary, because many can't bear silence. Without constant noise, without others' approval, they don't know who they are. But the focused person pays the price of embracing solitude and turning it into a tool. Solitude isn't a void. It's a space to think clearly, hear your inner voice, and build unshakable convictions. This mastery transforms you into an unshakable person, someone who doesn't need anyone's presence to feel complete. Moreover, you must train your attention like a muscle. Every moment you give to what others are doing is a moment you lose momentum on your own path. Every hour spent comparing yourself is an hour wasted that you could have invested in your growth. The disciplined person turns their attention into a laser beam. They focus on the essential and protect their mind from irrelevant distractions. This absolute focus is one of the most powerful weapons of success. And it only comes when you cut ties with external distractions and dedicate yourself to what builds you. And here's the most precious thing. When you manage to focus on yourself, you don't just strengthen yourself. You also become more capable of helping those who depend on you, because you now give from the abundance of a person who has educated themselves, disciplined themselves, and chosen themselves first. Don't forget, focusing on yourself doesn't mean forgetting the world. It means building yourself so that your life becomes an example, not a meaningless sacrifice. While others exhaust themselves trying to please everyone, you stand tall, strong from the investment you've made in yourself. The seventh step to focusing on yourself is to free yourself as quickly as possible from the obsession with competing with others. Most men are trapped in an endless, invisible race. Who earns more? Who has the more expensive car? Who reached the goal first? And of course, this race always leaves a sense of emptiness, because there will always be someone a step ahead. This mindset turns life into a senseless chase, a game where you never feel enough. The man who respects himself pays the price of giving up this absurd competition. He stops comparing himself outwardly and starts surpassing himself inwardly. He replaces, "I want to be better than them," with, "I want to be better than yesterday." And at that precise moment, he discovers a freedom few know. But beware, this price isn't light. It means learning to measure your success by your own standards, not those dictated by society. Because society will always give you goals that seem like yours, but are in reality disguised chains. They'll tell you that you're only successful if you have a certain salary, a certain title, a certain recognition. And what if your success doesn't look like theirs? The focused person defines their own standards. Am I growing? Am I moving toward my goals? Am I living for a purpose? If the answer is yes, then you're already winning, even if no one understands. Another important step is learning to celebrate your achievements without comparing them to others. The average person accomplishes something and instead of enjoying it, diminishes it, because someone else succeeded faster, with more money, or with more noise. This mindset destroys all progress. Focusing on yourself is accepting every step, even small, as valuable, even if no one notices. Every habit you maintain, every day you don't give up, every decision made with discipline is a true victory. And celebrating that gives you the motivation you need to keep moving forward. And of course, there's another sacrifice, abandoning the constant need to prove your worth. The majority seek to impress, to show, to convince. But this frenzy of display isn't greatness, it's disguised insecurity. The focused person doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. They don't live for applause, but for their mission. And this calm is disconcerting, because in a world obsessed with approval, someone who no longer needs it becomes impossible to ignore. Finally, you must accept the cost of being different, because when you stop competing, stop seeking approval, and walk at your own pace, you'll be labeled as strange. Yes, this is a price many refuse to pay, enduring the discomfort of being different. But what few understand is that this difference opens the door to an extraordinary life. Mediocrity is always the majority. Greatness is always the minority. Keep this firmly in mind. You don't have to run in someone else's race. Your only opponent is yourself. And when you break this trap and start surpassing yourself every day, you'll find an authentic, inimitable strength that will set you apart from the crowd and make you impossible to ignore. The 8th step to focusing on yourself is learning to shed the invisible weight of others' expectations. Often, what stops you isn't the direct words of others, but the silent burden of what you think you should do according to them. Family, friends, society, everyone seems to have an idea of what your life should be. What career to choose, how much to earn, when to marry, how to live. And the average person, fearing disappointment, crumbles under these expectations. But the person who respects themselves understands one essential thing. Disappointing others is better than betraying yourself. This price hurts, yes, because it means accepting that you can't be the person everyone expects. But it's also liberating, because it gives you permission to live your own truth, not someone else's. To achieve this, you need absolute clarity about your purpose. Without direction, any external voice can steer you off course. That's why the disciplined person pays the price of spending hours thinking, asking uncomfortable questions, and being ruthlessly honest to define what they truly want. Once their vision is clear, nothing from the outside can cloud it. They can listen to advice, consider ideas, but they're never enslaved to them. They filter everything through their own purpose. And here's another truth. No matter what you do, you'll always be judged. If you work hard, they'll say you're obsessive. If you rest, they'll say you're lazy. If you succeed, they'll say you were lucky. If you fail, they'll say you didn't have what it takes. In the minds of others, there's no way out. That's why the focused person pays the price of courage. They accept they'll be judged regardless and gain the freedom to act without fear. Moreover, you must accept that not everyone will welcome your growth warmly. Some will drift away because your discipline bothers them, because your success reflects their own mediocrity. This may hurt, but it's necessary. Every person who leaves makes room for someone who will push you forward, who will respect your path. Don't fear these losses. Be grateful for them, because they are natural filters that leave behind a stronger circle. Focusing on yourself also requires training your independence, both emotionally and practically. You can't rely on others to motivate you, guide you, or save you. True strength must come from within. Every time you choose to move forward without waiting for applause, every time you maintain your discipline without an audience, every time you decide to act without a crowd, you're paying the price of your inner freedom. And this is crucial. In the end, others will always have expectations of you, but you, and you alone, will live with the consequences of your decisions. When you choose to disappoint others rather than betray yourself, when you stay true to your purpose even if it bothers others, when you walk without depending on anyone, you become more than a focused person. You become truly free. The 9th step to focusing on yourself is learning to master your thoughts. Because nothing can pull you away from your goal as much as your mind when it's occupied with others' noise. Think about this. Most people wake up, and the first thing they do is check what others have shared, what others think, what's expected of them. And with this habit, they become invisible slaves. They don't live their own lives. They live fixated on others. Focusing on yourself is paying the price of training your mind, directing it toward what strengthens you instead of what scatters you. And this doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily, constant, silent task. Every time your mind starts to compare, criticize, or obsess over others, you must pull it back. You must remind yourself that your only task is to build your own path. And of course, this requires monitoring what you consume, what you think, what you repeat. Because what you repeat becomes a belief, and what you believe becomes your destiny. Here's another inevitable cost: leaving behind pointless arguments. The average person wastes hours trying to be right, debating with people who will never change their minds, losing energy in meaningless battles. The focused person pays the price of silence. They choose to withdraw rather than wear themselves out. They have nothing to prove. Their results speak for them. And while others wander in trivialities, they grow in the essential. Focusing on yourself also means taking full responsibility for your life. Many justify their lack of progress by blaming their parents, their boss, the government, or the economy. But this mindset keeps them bound. The disciplined person pays the price of the discomfort of accepting a harsh truth. Everything they have or don't have is the result of their own decisions. Yes, it's heavy, because it eliminates excuses, but it's also liberating. Because if you're part of the problem, you're also part of the solution. Finally, this focus requires shielding yourself from the silent comparisons that destroy self-esteem. Every time you tell yourself, "They've already achieved more, I'm behind," you poison yourself without realizing it. Paying the price of focus is cutting off these narratives and replacing them with an inner dialogue filled with discipline and confidence. You don't need to be better than anyone else. You just need to be better than the version of yourself from yesterday. And remember this with absolute clarity. The one who masters their thoughts masters their life. As long as your mind is trapped in external noise, you'll keep living for others. But when you train your mind to focus on your purpose, your growth, and your decisions, you become unshakable. This mental strength isn't given to you. It's forged through sacrifice and discipline, and when you achieve it, you rise above the average. Because you understand that the greatest battle is never outside, but always inside your own head. The 10th and final step to focusing on yourself is understanding that the life you desire is only possible when your purpose becomes your absolute priority, no matter what. Most people want to move forward, but their eyes are always on the sides. They get distracted by what others are doing. They stop to listen to criticisms. They paralyze themselves waiting. And in that waiting, their time, energy, and life slip away. The truly focused person pays the price of building an invisible wall between themselves and external noise. They learn to walk with clarity, without waiting for followers, without waiting for approval, without stopping. This level of focus is rare, because it's costly, because it requires sacrifices few are willing to make, but it's the only path to an extraordinary life. This final price includes transforming your identity. Small adjustments aren't enough. You must become a person who lives by higher standards permanently. A person who keeps their word even when no one sees, who maintains their discipline even without applause, who chooses the discomfort of growth over the comfort of mediocrity. This transformation is radical because it forces you to let go of who you were to make room for who you can become. And this rebirth doesn't happen once. It's lived every day, in every decision. It also means accepting solitude as a natural part of the path. Because focusing on yourself will lead you to distance yourself from environments you once fit into, to leave behind relationships that don't share your vision, to be marked as different. And yes, this hurts, but it's in that solitude that your unshakable strength is born. It's where the clarity that sets you apart is forged. The average person flees this discomfort and so stays in the same place. The one who pays the price stays, endures, grows stronger, and discovers that this solitude isn't a void. It's the soil where your character turns to stone. Etch this in your mind with absolute clarity. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean forgetting others. It means stopping losing yourself in them. It means no longer measuring your life with someone else's yardstick, no longer living to be approved, no longer giving your time to meaningless comparisons. It means seizing the reins of your destiny, building silently each day, and respecting your purpose above all else. This is the ultimate price, abandoning your dependency on the world and becoming the absolute architect of your life. There will always be noise, criticism, distractions, and expectations in the world. But when you learn to focus on yourself, none of that matters anymore. Because the noise becomes silence, the criticisms become fuel, and solitude becomes your greatest strength. This is the difference between ordinary people and the great. The former live preoccupied with everyone else. The latter focus on themselves. And those who pay the price of this absolute focus are the ones who achieve what the majority will never know. In conclusion, focusing on yourself isn't selfishness. It's self-respect. It's the most courageous decision you can make in a world constantly trying to divert your attention. If these reflections have brought you something, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. For equally deep content, you can subscribe to the channel. What do you think about this? Share your opinion in the comments. Let's walk together on this journey.